Today's guest hails from Los Angeles, California. She's a singer, songwriter, and artist. I spelled that wrong. One sec. Today's guest hails from Los Angeles, California. She's a singer, songwriter, and artist. She brought you songs like Hypocrite, Naive, and Just Like You. Growing up, she was one of Paramore's biggest fans and even sang with them on a cruise ship. She's now here to talk about it all with us. Please welcome today's guest, Annika Rose.
What's up, Brad?
What's going on?
Thanks for having me.
I need to hear about this Paramore cruise.
Paramore cruise. Yeah. So that's called Parahoy, obviously. And Paramore's been my favorite band since forever. And when I was 14, I think I was, my parents were still together. And I said, hey guys, this is happening. It's mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
And to my surprise, they believed me. And we all got on a plane, flew to Miami. And the cruise went from Miami to Cozumel,
Mm-hmm.
Mexico. And there was like 2,500 people on the ship, I think. Paramore brings on a few other bands and artists that they love and know. Hi. And then they host events, and you're just in the middle of the ocean with all these bands. There's like different venues and like rooms set up on the ship so you can see like the time slots for what band is performing in what room, and you can go around. And then there's other events, like there were silent discos and Q&As, and then there was a karaoke contest.
Karaoke.
Because they're clever like that. And you had to send in a submission before the cruise, and they picked a few people to go on stage and to sing on the cruise. So I sang, and if you got into the top 3, you got to sing again. And I sang twice on the cruise, and it was the most surreal experience of my life. But funnily enough, it was the second time I sang with them, which is ridiculous because when I was 12, I went to my first Paramore concert ever at the Irvine Amphitheater.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a giant sign because I always pull somebody up for Misery Business. And I made this ginormous poster. I worked my ass off for weeks drawing this poster. And I get there and the woman at the gate is like, there's no posters allowed. And I was like, listen, you don't understand. This was extra credit. And I did it to the best of my ability. I fucking aced this project. You are letting me in with my poster. I'm getting called on stage for Misery Business. And she was like, throw a fit or don't go in. And I was like, okay. So I threw a fit.
Yeah.
And and I still didn't get in with my poster. So I had
But
to
you got in.
So I had to put my poster in the car, sobbed like a little baby to my mom. Went into the concert. I was like, okay, we gotta have faith here. You know, we gotta just believe. So I was third row behind the pit. I went fucking ballistic the entire concert. And then it was time for Misery Business. And I got chosen out of 20,000 people without my poster to get on stage and sing when they were on tour with Fall Out Boy. Sang Ms. Biz in front of that fucking arena. And 2 years later, I went on the cruise and I sang. And I can't even believe that it actually happened.
You've sang with Paramore twice.
Isn't that insane?
What a small world in a weird way.
I know.
It's crazy how things work out and just kind of happen.
I know. I feel like at that point in my life, the belief, the like completely outlandish in your wildest dream beliefs that I had that I didn't overthink with like rational thought. It was just like, oh, this is gonna happen. And it wasn't overpowered by like statistics of the thing actually happening. The pure raw excitement is the thing that I think got me called out of the audience. Because now, like, think about it. When you're like, oh, I'm going to be, or I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, you might actually really believe that you're going to do it. But then because you're a grown-up and you know things more than you did when you were 14, you're like, okay, but like, let's be real here.
You kind of build your own expectations of like loss.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like the universe reads that and feels that, and then you're not going to be on stage with Paramore. So like getting back to like the raw essence of just pure excitement and belief that like the wildest things can actually happen and will happen to you is like the best thing to do. But it's actually like an active practice to be able to not get in your own way.
It's like meditating and being able to realize you have a voice in the back of your head and then shutting it off.
Yeah, that you have an endless amount of voices in the back of your head. That every second there's multiple people or things that are talking to you, and it's not actually you. It's not actually fucking you. None of the shit that goes on here is actually you.
Yeah.
It's like, it's what you do, it's what you exhibit into the actual, like your actions and how you carry yourself and how you talk and how you do things, not what's like being said in here.
I'm a firm believer that the only thoughts that we can claim are the ones that we actually put into existence.
100%.
But we're going to have 1,000 thoughts that are awful and amazing and this and that are our choice if we're going to go grab them from the ether or if we're just going to let them fucking pass and go to the next person.
100%. It's like, there's so many random little boop, boop, boop happening all the time. Like, I'll be at a stop sign, someone's across the street, I'm like, run them over. And obviously, I'm not going to fucking run them over, but that's just like a thought.
I have that.
Do you know what I mean? Like, all the time.
I don't want to incriminate myself.
Yeah, standing on the edge of a cliff, I'm like, jump. No, don't fucking jump. That didn't come from me. I don't actually want to jump. But
there's that little voice.
Yeah. For everything, all the time.
And sometimes it's a big voice.
Yes. Yes. Very big.
And speaking of a small world, you at that Paramore cruise happened to take a picture with some random Brazilian girl.
Yeah.
Who then 10 years later ended up becoming one of your close friends.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
It's the most bizarre story I've ever heard.
Yeah, my best friend, Amanda, she was on the same cruise. She came from Brazil. I came from LA. She was there with her mom. There were professional cruise photographers, and one of the photographers took a family photo of my mom, my dad, my sister, and I when I got off stage after singing. And this girl like jumped in the picture. It was the only picture that I had from the cruise, besides like the videos of me on stage. And I was performing at Winston House last year, and my friends came, like a group of my friends who I met through Noah, a childhood best friend. And some of his friends came who became my friends, and they were standing in the front, and there was this girl in the front, like singing the lyrics to my songs. And I'm like, who is this person? Also, like, why does she kind of look familiar? And then I got off stage, and like, she just comes running up to me and she's like, I know you. And I'm like, oh, how do we know each other? And she pulls up the fucking picture from 10 years ago of her with my family on the cruise because she had randomly met one of Noah's friends at a bar in Brazil, who then introduced her to Noah, who's like my childhood best friend, who she then made the connection like, oh, you know the girl that I have a picture with from this cruise 10 years ago.
So bizarre.
But it took that long for us to like come together again. And then it was like, and then she just came here and she slept in my bed for 2 weeks.
And we went and took photos, and she's fucking so rad.
Yeah, I know.
Speaking of Noah, I got to pull something up real quick. Okay. And I want to get your thoughts on this. Oh, God. Probably should have had it ready, but
that's fine.
Pretty close to it.
Yeah. Oh my God. No. You cannot. You cannot. What is this? This doesn't exist. What do you mean? Bradley, what the fuck?
Is it a deep dive or what?
Dude, who's that interviewer, Nardwar or something? Who like just like pulls up like your fucking childhood friend from when you were 6 months old?
You're
who,
Annika,
like,
we have to know.
That doesn't exist. I don't know what you mean. That's AI.
I won't post it.
No, it's AI. It's AI. That's not me and that's not him.
That was my favorite deep dive. Thank you to your best friend for that one.
She sent it to you?
He
He sent it to you?
Yeah. How amazing is that?
I'm literally never gonna talk to him again.
That was my favorite. Your reaction to that was gold.
I'll never speak to him again.
Nobody sees it.
No,
Nobody
I'll
knows.
never talk to him again. It's over.
Thank you for that, Noah.
No, it's over. Just
We
so you know.
appreciate you. We both appreciate you for that video.
I don't appreciate you at all for that video, but I appreciate you for other things.
What can you tell us about that video?
That it's AI.
That's all I'm getting out of you for it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have a lot of videos like that? AI videos like that?
Mm-hmm.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
I gotta go deep dive some
No,
more.
it's AI.
I have a feeling those are gonna be taken down before I can even look again.
Someone's already on it.
That was so amazing. So how long have you known Noah?
Since I was 10.
That's crazy.
Isn't that wild? Dude, he was such a fucking little lady killer, 10-year-old Noah in his little white skinny jeans doing the
his dance moves?
We'd be at like Universal City Walk and he'd have his like little haircut and his little white jeans and he'd just be like ripping it and all the like little 9-year-olds were like, "Oh my god."
Oh my god, that
and it
was
was great.
So funny.
Yeah.
I would love to see a photo of Noah in every era of Noah. Because he's the youngest rock star I know.
Yeah. I mean, shit, man. I probably got some stuff in my camera roll.
Well, when he comes on, you're going to have to give me some dirt.
Oh. I'll be getting you back so hard.
He's gonna deserve it now.
He deserves it.
That was so funny.
Mm-hmm. That's
so
crazy. I can't believe you have that.
More about you. Tell us, for those of the viewers who don't know your story, can you give us just a little background on who Annika Rose is?
Sure. I grew up here in the Valley. And, oh man. So there's a lot has happened. I grew up with my mom, my dad, and my sister. My sister's 2.5 years older than me. And my dad designed recording studios for a long time. My mom moved from Boston when she was 17 to be a musician, moved to LA. And so music was always in the blood, which is great. And I started a YouTube channel when I was like 7, singing some fucking awesome little covers in my bathtub.
I'll find that for the next one.
Yeah, the acoustics were great in the bathtub. And did that for a while. Then I joined a band, like a rock band when I was 10. And I played a bunch of shows all over LA with them. We were called Breaking 27, like breaking the curse of the 27 Club.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I had nothing to do with it, but it was cool. And then when I was 13, I was scouted through a through a video that I made with Breaking 27 where we covered and we remade the music video.
Oh, I gotta find that.
Oh, no, you're not gonna find that. But
put it in the link below.
Nope, don't put it in the link below. But I was scouted through that, and I joined a girl band when I was 13. The bass player and I left that band. We signed to Simon Cowell and just like got thrown into a development deal for 6 months. Or I guess kind of maybe the whole stint of time that I was with them was a development deal because we never put out any music, but it was 4 girls, everyone played instruments, and very like heavily rock influenced. And we were just sort of thrown into the ringer. That was like my first introduction to pop writing sessions and being in the room with other collaborators and learning how to write songs in a room with people. But it was very much like a series of blind dating for a couple years. And it was really cool. Like when I think back about that experience, I'm so utterly grateful that we didn't put music out because it would have been so premature. And I'm so utterly grateful that even though it sort of blew up in my face at the end, that I had the experience I had because the relationships are amazing that I gained from that. And just the experience and like learning what those rooms are like and how to integrate myself into it and knowing what style of working I like / don't / also being sort of forced into taking writing more seriously because it was always something I wanted to do. And my mom is an amazing songwriter, but I obviously know now that so much of what is what writing is to me is like nothing but utter catharsis, and I didn't have anything that needed to be like released in that way during that time. So it was difficult. I was like, do I have this capability or not? And as soon as the rest of my life blew up in my face, that was when I was like, oh, but I do have this and I can do this. And so towards the end of that experience, the A&R who had found me in the other band when I was 13, she was from the UK, and she fell in love with my mom, and my mom fell in love with her, and my parents got divorced, and she left the record company and she moved to LA, and she moved in with me and my mom and married my mom and then started managing me. Some other shit happened in between that, but eventually we were okay enough to start working together professionally. And so that happened, and then I started writing for other artists when I was 15 and being on the other side of what those sessions are like, where I was going in as a co-writer versus an artist. And then I signed a production deal with a producer in the UK that was not fruitful in any way, shape, or form. And then I signed another record deal when I was 17. And then I put out an EP with them. It was an amazing experience. I loved them. I was so proud of that music, called Ventura Boulevard. And then left when I was 19, signed another record deal when I was 19. Just am in the process of getting out of that deal and being independent. So that's the rundown.
And that's the deal that we talked about when I met you.
Yes. And now I'm not allowed to publicly talk about it.
So we won't.
Yeah. It's really, really good because I have so much to say.
We'll privately talk about it.
So much to say.
All right, I'm going to ask you after. I'm curious. So it sounds like you went through 5 different lifetimes already.
Yeah, something like that. Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you feel like because you were in this industry so early that it was a inhibitor to you growing up the way you should have? Or do you think it gave you the childhood you kind of dreamed of?
That's a tough question because for one, I think when you're a kid, you don't really understand until you're older how incredible it is to just be a kid. And you're always aspiring for something greater and bigger and larger than life. And of course, when I was 13 and I had a dream of becoming a fucking pop star, signing a record deal and being with 3 other young girls my age and like doing amazing shit all day and like having to leave school early because I'm like in a band.
Yeah.
Of course, I was like, this is the dream. And retrospectively, I wouldn't change anything about anything.
Okay.
But even just the other day, I was like, I think it'd be really fun to go take a creative writing class on a school campus this year for like 6 or 8 weeks, because I think part of me is missing the more stereotypical, traditional trajectory of a young person. And yeah, I think there's a way to like, maybe my dream when I was 13 was to do everything that I did. And my dream now is to almost do everything that I didn't do in a way, while simultaneously, obviously pursuing this thing that is my entire like being and my purpose, but also really seeking out the just mundane, simple things, because there's also so much to be gained through that experience.
Absolutely.
And being around young people who are learning, and I don't know, yeah, like it comes down, I think, to just growing up really fast. And I do feel like I'm sort of pining for some of those like more youthful things I didn't really get to do.
Absolutely.
You know?
It's such an interesting dissonance because I think everybody, it's always a grass is greener sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I remember growing up and feeling like I was in a normal person's world, but I was not a normal person. And I knew nobody who played music. And I sat in a basement by myself, jamming all day, every day. And all I wanted was to be around like-minded people.
Mm.
And then everybody I meet who is in that position seems to want the childhood I had.
Mm.
And it's so interesting because...
What was the childhood you had?
Very normal. Very, very, very normal. 2 parents who were madly in love. I had a really close family. I had dinner with my family, my 35, 40 person family every Sunday. Saw my 2 cousins were within a few months, if not a few days of me. And I spent every waking moment with them. And yet the whole time, what I really felt like I wanted was to be able to show the world how much I loved music.
Mm.
And I never had that opportunity until I got to college and I started meeting people who were like-minded or a version of it. I think that I really came into that out here and meeting people like yourself and Danny and Noah and the people that are going to be my friends forever who I can speak to about that stuff and have some sort of connection. And I always felt like I didn't have the peace that I deserved. And now I'm realizing that I don't think anybody deserves anything until they work for it. And I didn't know how to work for it back then. Maybe I could have made changes, maybe not. My parents knew nothing about that world. My mom's a teacher. My dad at the time was doing mortgages. Very normal.
You only know what you know.
Absolutely.
Like you said earlier.
Absolutely. And I loved it. And I think it took me a long time to realize how much I loved my childhood. But it also spent most of it wishing I was doing something different.
Of course, that's always how it goes. You want straight hair when you have curly hair and curly hair when you have straight hair.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I find myself in this group of people with people like you. And I mean, you and Noah are probably the 2 best examples of people who were thrown into the industry very, very, very young.
Yeah.
And we all sort of ended up in the same place, which is super interesting because when we sit down for dinner, we're still eating the same food, still using a fork and a knife, still spilling our water or whatever it is, and going home to go to bed. And I think what I really realized from all this is do your best to enjoy where you're at that moment, because that you won't have again.
100%.
But you can always decide the next moment.
100%. But I think that awareness comes when you get older.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's nice to know that you also can make those choices. Like you have that autonomy now. Like I can go back to school now if I want to.
100%.
And you can go visit your family. And you can still feel the way that you did when you were like 11 years old sitting at the dinner table on Sunday night.
Absolutely.
But you can also know that like you've set yourself up in a place with the people that you were craving being around when you were that age.
100%. And it allows me to dictate the way I want my life to continue. And what I want I know for me that if I had to give up everything in order to have one outcome, that outcome would be a family. That's my non-negotiable.
That's the North Star.
100%. I will give up music. I will give up this podcast. I will give up happiness. Everything. Happiness is the wrong way to put it because I believe that is where my happiness will lie. But I also know that I think for a long time I decided that I'm going to be the parent who makes sure my kids have all the opportunities in music and this and that. And the further into it I go, I kind of realize that I don't know if that's the case. I think really the North Star should be giving them the best opportunity to make those choices for themselves.
100%.
What would you say as somebody who did grow up in an opportunity, whether you felt like it was your choice or not? What would you do with your future or non-future kids?
I haven't really thought about that much. I think you said it perfectly. Is like breeding an environment where your kid feels safe enough to chase anything and feel supported in it unconditionally. And not to say that, I'd encourage my child to, not go to school in 6th grade so that they can stay home and play guitar. Like there's a foundation that has to be set for the rest of your life so that when you go and do anything, that ground is still underneath you. But just creating an environment where they feel safe to make their own choice. And hopefully my relationship is strong enough and they feel like their relationship with me is strong enough where we can have an open conversation about that choice. And like guidance can be offered gently without dictating their choice. Because that's something that I feel like, not to say I didn't have, because I always knew what I wanted to do, but even now, like my mom is married to my manager and I live with them.
It's like a separation of church and state.
Yeah. So being able to, attempting to set boundaries so that I know I have my mom, just my mom, to come home to every night. And if I want to go to her about something, if I'm caught at a crossroads and I don't know what direction I'm being pulled in, what choice I want to make, I don't sit down with her, or I want to sit down with her and say, hey, help me out, without thinking or believing that she's going to pull me in a specific direction based on what she thinks is best for me. It's more like, talk to me about it. What would make you want to turn left? What would make you want to turn right? And like, I think so much makes sense when it's not existing inside of you anymore, and when you have a space to talk about things and someone who will receive you without telling you what's right and what's wrong. And I want in my future to be able to, for like my kid to pull up a chair and know that I'm not going to tell them to turn left and I'm not going to tell them to turn right, but we can talk about it until it becomes clear for them.
And you can be there to make sure they don't fall on the way, but that they also understand how to pick themselves up if they do.
Yeah. Or, if they fall, they fucking fall. They're going to learn something from it. But yes, when they get back up or when they're on the floor, I will walk up with my hand out ready to pick them back up.
It's so interesting how, at least for me, it took until I was about 25 until any of this made sense. Every single piece of it was so obscure to me until it wasn't. And
in what way?
I think I spent a lot of my life wondering how I can do better than what was done to me. Until I realized that the things that were not done correctly were the things that I gained the most from.
Yeah, it's always how it goes.
By such an extreme amount. There's only one person I've ever hated in my whole life, that I've known.
Say it. I'm kidding.
I thought about it. He knows.
Okay.
He's well aware.
Okay.
And now I think he's probably one of the most important pieces of my life. I think because of the bullying and the situations that I was brought on by him, I gained resilience. I gained an understanding of self-worth. I gained the ability to really take into account how other people feel in the room, even when they're not saying something. And these are all things that I work on constantly and that I haven't mastered. But I don't know if I would have had any of that without this built-in adversity, because I did have it so smooth and easy per se. Everybody has their issues, but I had two parents that were madly in love and are still to this day. I still have all four of my grandparents. I had a massive family that was so supportive and just completely with unwavering love. And if I didn't have this built-in adversity, I might have never understood what it was like to have a shitty day. And I would never have understood what it was like to understand what it takes to dig yourself out of a hole and to not have help. And I kept my mouth shut about a lot of it throughout a lot of years. And I'm glad I did, because it gave me the chance to understand that I can figure it out on my own. And I have the help and I have the support, and I will never fall 10 times in a row, but I might fall a few times in a row, and that's okay. And so wanting to say his name. I was so close.
I mean, you're going to cut this episode, right?
Parts of it.
So tell me.
His name's Dylan Deitch.
Dylan Deitch.
Yeah.
Dylan Dick.
Dylan
Deitch bag.
Exactly. Yes. And I appreciate him very, very much for giving me the option and the opportunity to feel less than. Because now I feel like I'm worth every bit of the pond, if you will.
Yeah. Adversity teaches you how to climb mountains.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's always how it goes. Like the toughest experiences in your life are the ones that you learn the most from. And I think they're actually quite empowering when you make it to the other side, because then you can go, oh, hey, you did that. You did that. You fucking jumped through hoops and you did it.
You beat the final boss.
You beat the final boss. Like, and that's a really important thing to know that you're capable of, because like it's part of the reason why I work out so hard every morning, is because if I work out every morning and I start my day with something really hard, I go, you're smooth sailing the rest of the day. Yeah. You already did a really hard thing. You can do hard things.
1,000%.
You can do hard things all day, and you will.
And they're useful.
And they're fucking useful. You know how many fucking bags of groceries I can carry now?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, it's useful.
Well, and this was our conversation that you and I had. It was our first conversation when we were walking to the creek in Malibu. Mm-hmm. And I think something that I find very important in the people that I build a life with, my friends, my family, my loved ones, is people who work hard to have resilience and don't expect it to come to them. And I think like what you're saying with these hard workouts, it's the same reason I like to smoke my weed and do my mushrooms, is because it's a workout. If I can get myself past an anxiety attack that I induced, you better believe that nothing throughout the day is going to be that hard. If I can go do an extra 5 reps when I was dead after, 10 of them ago, I can do any fucking thing throughout that day that I put my mind to. And it really does make the difference. And I agree. If I don't beat myself up in the morning at the gym, if I don't go on my runs, if I don't do my few things, then, and I have a shitty day, it's my fault. And I shouldn't expect to have a great day if I didn't put every bit of effort into making sure that I deserve it.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that part of strengthening the relationship that you have with yourself is also learning how to be okay with having a shitty day. Even if you did it to yourself, even if you didn't go to the gym, even if you didn't check off everything on your to-do list, like being gentle with non-productivity too, because that is something that I really struggle with, because I am very type A. Like, I want to plan everything out. I have to-do lists. I love putting a little fucking green check mark next to something when it's done. I feel amazing. It's great. And that's most of the time when I can lay my head on my pillow before falling asleep and be like, all right, you fucking crushed it.
Yeah.
But sometimes I want to lay in my bed and I don't want to work out. And I ask myself, are you being lazy right now, or are you listening to yourself? And like hearing that voice and being able to like distinguish it amongst the other ones that are like, you don't feel like this, blah, 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 like all these different parts of you that are coming up and trying to talk to you at the same time. Like if you can really identify the one that's like, babe, you're too tired today. Go back to bed. Yeah. And honoring that's also really fucking important. Because if you base all your value in how hard you went at the gym and how if you don't go harder tomorrow, you're a failure, that is equally as non-productive as the alternative.
1,000%.
So that's at this phase in my life, like I can get down on myself for so many things. The fact that I still live with my mom, the fact that my music hasn't taken off, the fact that this, that, and the other thing. And rather than going down all of those individual rabbit holes, I go, you got this. Just keep doing it. Are you doing that thing because you really enjoy it, because you love it, because it's lighting you up? Are you following joy? Is that a full body yes? Is that a full body no? If your answer is yes, trust over fear. Yeah. It gets dangerous when you become a robot when you structure your days so that just for the sake of structuring your days, which is really like harder said, like easier said than done, because my instinct is always the night before to structure my day tomorrow for tomorrow. And then you don't really leave room for miracles to happen. If you do that. And it's fine. Like, I know that the part of me that wants to be organized is trying to protect me from something. Yeah. And so I also honor her. And I'm like, okay, you want to structure your days. Okay, so put some like tentative things that you want to do. What do you want to do tomorrow? Like, what's making you excited? Do you want to record that audition for this? You want to go to Bradley's and record the podcast and like do whatever? Okay, cool. But like in between this and that, what's going to make you happy? What's going to make you excited? And I started doing this thing recently where I'll make a to-do list and I add fun things to my to-do list, like making my cup of coffee in the morning, or like walking to go get a matcha, or like making a lunch that I'm really excited about because I found this fucking recipe 2 weeks ago and I haven't had time to do, like putting fun things, calling my boyfriend in the morning and saying like small things. Because they're all equally, if not more productive than the things that are going to be received by other people, like the podcast or whatever else you're doing. And I'm really trying to be guided more by that joy and that excitement than what I think needs to get done so that I feel worthy because I was productive.
Yeah, sometimes you got to be your biggest fan, and you got to be the person.
All the fucking time.
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it.
And you got to be excited to make yourself excited. And you have to be excited for that moment. And I learned that with my ex, because there was a long time where she was my biggest fan and I wasn't. I was my biggest threat and fear and enemy and the person who could take me over the edge the quickest. And then I can't expect anybody else to understand me if I don't understand me, or if I'm not putting in the work to. And like you're saying, and this is something I really needed to hear, because I'm at that point right now where I've become a robot. And I overcorrected extremely. And I have for a long time based my self-worth on what number of tasks I committed to and followed through on. And sometimes I think those are important.
They are.
And I think commitments are important, but I think what those commitments mean to you and what expectations you're setting for yourself decide what those commitments can actually do for you and what outcome and what progress you can gain from them.
And who you're doing them for.
Yes.
Who are you doing them for? Yeah. And like I said, it's easier said than done. But we spend so much of our time in here that we forget that we're actually like I can feel my like ass on this fucking chair and my sweaty ass feet that I should have put socks on in these shoes before all of these things are real. This is real. I'm looking at you. I'm talking to you. That's real. And there was a moment that I even clocked a few minutes ago where I was in the middle of a spiel and I started thinking about what time I need to be back before I have to go. And I was like, oh, no. No, you're talking to Bradley right now. You're having a conversation. Be here. Because I have spent so much time in my head that all of a sudden 4 years went by in the pandemic and I'm fucking 22 and I turned 18 a month before the pandemic hit. And I'm like, what happened to all of that? Where did it go? Where the fuck did it go? And did I enjoy the last 4 years? Because I can't fucking remember. I can't remember. And there's obviously a significant chunk of that time where I was in complete and utter fight or flight because of the situation that I was in. Yeah. And there was no room for the forms of self-protection that come from meditation, whatever. My self-protection was actually not getting hurt by somebody and by a group of people. And I really vowed to myself this year to do all of my mindfulness practices to go for my walk, to not feel guilty that I go for a walk or go for a run in the morning because I could be doing X, Y, or Z. And it's helping so much because, of course, it's unrealistic to think that you're never going to get pulled out of the present moment. It happens all the time. But being able to be like, come back.
Yeah.
Come back. Be here.
Not take everything as too precious, but also to understand the precious part of the moment is the fact that you did something for yourself and you listened to yourself. Like you said, what did you say? Full body listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or a full body yes.
Full body yes. Yeah. I love when I get a full body yes. The thing that I am really having to work on is allowing for the full body yes to become really clear, because I always am like, I want to know things yesterday. And it's just not how it works. Like if I have to make an important decision and I don't immediately get the like, oh, I want to vomit, that's a full body fucking no real fast. Or if it's like sort of in this in between, I'm not really quite sure yet, to not like close my eyes and like force a feeling. Just be like, okay, fuck, I'll give it a couple days. Fine. I'll wait. But it's so annoying because I hate waiting.
If I wake up and I decide I need a haircut, I'm going to have a haircut in 30 minutes.
Yes.
That's why I have these tattoos.
Nope. That's literally why I have all of my tattoos.
Yeah. And I love them for that. I love that I have the ability to do that. I think so many people wait for their moment, and they need their moment to mean something more than it's supposed to, that they never have that moment. And I've had hundreds of thousands of them, and I'm going to have hundreds of thousands more. But I agree, there needs to be, it's still a scale. It needs to be weighted. I need to also understand that every thought in my head is not an accurate thought. It's not always the helpful thought. It's not always the thought that's going to make me happier in 10 minutes, let alone tomorrow. And just learning how to read that sort of book that is our brains and these file cabinets. I'm a big proponent of all our brains is this file cabinet of yeses and nos that we decided to accept or decline throughout our life. Mm-hmm. And then we have the equation built in and the result. And those results can be terrible, they can be beautiful, they can be life-changing, they can be life-altering. And how we decide to use those in our daily lives post-event is really what makes them useful. Mm. And I've had so many times where I used the same mistake over and over again and made it until I finally did it right. But it feels a lot better once you realize that it was a process that you had to fully be a part of in order to make it a successful moment.
It's a fucking process. It's all a process. And I want things to be done right now, immediately. But the reality is, it's just not how it works. It's not how it works. And like, if my discomfort lies in waiting, then I am more than willing to practice being uncomfortable all the time. If it means that I get to where I want to be smoother and faster, inevitably, because I'm actually allowing myself time to like get there.
Yeah, it's
and
like,
know how I want to get there.
I feel like it's like wearing a suit of armor. You could have your whole body protected, but then maybe you can't run away. And you could have too little on where you can run.
That's such a great visual.
But the arrow might still go through.
That's a great visual.
There's just this balance in life where you want to be protected enough that you know you're making the right decisions for yourself, but light enough to run away from the decisions that don't suit you and don't honor the person that you'd like to be tomorrow. Because we've already made the decisions that decide who we are in this exact moment.
Yeah.
The only thing we can do is try to do a little better next time. And part of the reason I fell in love with this platform over me making my music, which was me forever, and I have music out and I have productions and this and that, and none of that feels like my voice. But you can go look up this podcast and hear 140 episodes of me being 100% honest to the best of my abilities over and over again. And I think this kind of platform gives us the opportunity to fuck up. That's what I wanted. I wanted to be able to say the wrong thing, the worst thing, the most terrible thing I could possibly say, and have a place to then rewrite my wrong tomorrow. Because I think the only
documentation of it.
Yeah, and the only thing that can counteract terrible speech is positive speech.
Mm.
I don't think hatred stops anybody from saying something terrible again. I don't think bewildering somebody for making a mistake ever makes them change. I think them realizing that there's an alternative way of going about a situation and then making that change to then do it correctly the next time, that rewrites all wrongs, at least in a lot of positions. And I've said things on this podcast that I don't agree with today, but you better believe that the following episode, I said that I was either wrong or I said that I've learned something new. And I'm not upset that I had those original thoughts. I'm excited that I learned from them.
100%. You get to reinvent yourself all the time.
Every single time.
It's amazing. What a cool thing to be able to do.
I think podcasting is probably what's going to help a lot of people understand that nobody's important and everybody's beyond important at the same time.
100%. Yeah, it's like journaling. It's like I go back and reread some of my old journal entries and I'm like, oh, I don't feel like that anymore. Oh, interesting. I don't remember feeling like that. What did I do after I wrote down that I felt like that? Did I do anything?
The file cabinets.
Yes, the file cabinets.
So where do you think these past 20 years have taken you as far as your music career? Do you feel like where you are right now is in a place of power, of growth, of satisfaction? What sums up the way that you feel about your music career at the moment?
Empowered. Empowered. Like really, truly empowered. I have had so many people making decisions for me for so long when I thought I was making decisions for myself. But I think I invalidated my own expression because I told myself the same things everybody else was telling me. You're so young. You're a girl. You are new to this. You're so green. You don't know what you're doing. And I was like, oh, you have such wise people around you who've been doing this for so much longer than you are. Listen to them. Okay. Now I can go, okay, what do you have to say? I'm fully open to your ideas. I'm fully open to your input. I'm fully open to everything that you say. I also am not going to immediately categorize it as the ultimate truth.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to do that before because I didn't even have the awareness that that's what was happening.
Yeah, I think we forget that listening means to hear. It doesn't mean to act on an answer. You can listen to everybody without having to take everything they say as the end all be all or verbatim.
Well, because also everyone has an opinion. It's like I was in this situation where we were A&Ring some of my songs. Yeah. And I mean, 8 months on a fucking snare drum. Like, couldn't agree. And because one person was like, it's not the right snare drum. And I was like, let's go ask little fucking Tommy on the side of the corner here what he thinks, because he'll have an opinion about it. Are we going to spend 8 fucking months on his opinion? Yeah. No. I like the snare drum. Put my song out. What do you mean? Like, and just because this person was a producer doesn't mean they were right. Their taste is their taste. If it was their song, they should have put it out. Or they should have spent another 8 months finding the fucking perfect snare drum. But now, look, it's give and take. I really, truly, deeply, honestly value the opinion of other people who I trust. Yeah. And sometimes what somebody else has to say, who I don't necessarily trust or know very well, says something that never would have crossed my mind that makes the biggest difference. Like, I'm open to everything. The possibility for everybody to be right and everybody to be wrong is fully present 100% of the time. And nobody is ever right and nobody is ever wrong. And remembering that when you're in like a really intense discussion with someone, it kind of then makes you want to laugh. Yes. Because you're like, cool. This is hilarious. Do you realize we're on a fucking floating rock right now? This doesn't matter. Also, if you're right, cool. If you're wrong, cool. Sick. Let's find out.
But also like nobody, you could be right a million times, but if nobody hears the music, then were you right at
Okay,
all?
that's what I'm saying. I'm like, y'all, I can't win the race if I don't have a foot in the fucking race.
Mm.
Like, I know that your goal is for this to be the best possible thing. We are aligned in that sense, 100 million %.
Yeah.
But there is also a point where you must surrender to the process of what's happening. Like, you must absolutely throw up your hands and say, okay, take it away. Let it happen.
I don't think you can get better before you go. I think the only way to get better is as you go.
100%. And now, like, I am feeling empowered, one, because I am an independent artist again for the first time in a very long time. Two, because I really, 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 really am being very honest in my music and telling stories that are highly representative of where I'm at, but also because I'm so terrified to put it out, because I'm being so honest, that's what makes me more excited to put it out. And three, I'm working with people who I don't ever want to leave their studio, because when we're done making the song, I want to hang out. And I don't really fuck with people that much all the time. So having that is like, oh my God, this feels really good. And when people match the energy of your expression, it's like magic. And I have that now. And I also started working primarily with friends. And my goodness, what a blessing that is. Why wasn't I doing that forever? I don't know. I'm not going to get mad at myself for it. But now that I know what it feels like to work with friends and what comes out of working with friends, because you're comfortable and because you trust people, you trust the people you're working with, it is a whole different ball game. Yeah. Like, you don't have to chase your identity. Your identity is. It just is. And I was always chasing, like, you know, because I also work with people who put such an emphasis on like marketing and like it's all important, of course, but if it felt like I was chasing something that didn't naturally come from inside of me, it wasn't me and it wasn't worth pursuing, because like people, it's so obvious when somebody isn't doing something authentically. Yeah. And my music is too personal and too good to not surround it, to uplift it with other things that aren't as honest and authentic as the music is. Yeah. So if I want to shoot a video in my fucking pajamas, I'm going to, because that's what I feel like doing. And I never had the courage to trust myself. And now I'm like, oh my God, you're good enough the way you are. Isn't that a crazy thought? You're good enough the way you fucking are. Like, and even if you fuck up and even if you make mistakes and even if you watch it back in a year and you don't like that you wore pajamas in the music video, fucking hug that girl who wore the pajamas, because that day she woke up and that's what she wanted to do. Like, I went through this with my friend Jonah, who I just shot the music video for the song that's coming out. And he was on the phone with me and we were talking about shooting the single cover art before I did it. And he was like, well, let's look back at some of your old stuff. And I was like, no. I was like, don't go back at some of my, looking at some of my old stuff. Like, don't do it. Like, I hate this and I hate this and I hate that. He's like, why? I was like, what do you mean why? It's fucking the Talk to Stranger. I have pink fucking, because it's terrible. He's like, but 2 years ago you really liked it. And I was like, oh, you bitch. You're so right.
Yeah, I think just in the same way, it's not fair to deny somebody else the enjoyment of whatever moment they had. It's not fair to do it to yourself either.
No, you would never be as harsh to somebody else as you are to yourself.
Oh, never.
Never.
Yeah, I've only watched 1 or 2 of my episodes ever. And that's something I'm trying to work on, because I'm trying to be excited about the growth versus mad that I wasn't great to start or that I'm not great yet.
Yes. Being a beginner at something is beautiful. And that's like something I have to always constantly remind myself of too, because I get so frustrated when I'm not immediately good at something. Because I've been good at doing music, which is my entire, being since I was so young. And of course, I've progressively gotten better, but I sort of have this expectation of myself to just be good already. Like, I tried to go surfing and I couldn't stand up the first time, obviously.
Yeah.
And I was like, never again.
Yep.
Never again, because you're a failure. What do you mean? You've never surfed before. You're not a fucking walking miracle. You're not gonna fucking just jump on the board and be fucking those blonde guys who people watch on YouTube. Like, you're not gonna be, who are they? Koa Smith or something?
Kane Ashes Amber.
Sure. Yeah, all those guys.
Yeah, Koa Smith.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, no. But also, he ain't gonna get on a mic.
No. And I don't think it would be an enjoyable process to succeed at something if you didn't understand what it was like to not succeed. It's like, do you know it's light out if you've never seen it be dark out? Do you know what it's like to sing well if you've never sung bad? Like, I think that process of wanting something and fucking taking it for your own and understanding that it's not going to happen in a day.
Yeah.
That if you can fully just let go to the feeling that I won't be great tomorrow, but if I keep working my ass off and keep enjoying the process and loving it, I'll get to be great at it one day, and that's going to be a lot more than being great tomorrow. We all know those artists that found success in a day and fell off even faster. It's because you don't have the respect for failure. You need to have respect for failure, or else you're never going to respect winning.
Totally. Or like falling in love, like you're falling in love. You're not in love. You're falling. You're like, it's a process. Like, that's just what it is. And if you can appreciate every step of that process and who you were, every iteration of getting to what you consider is greatness, it's going to feel so damn good.
It's going to. It's not just going to for other people, but it's going to for you.
Yes, mostly for you.
And you're going to have this feeling pretty soon after whatever stupid fucking deal that we talk about after with shitty people. The next time you're in a deal with somebody who treats you with love and respect in the way that you deserve, it's going to feel a lot better than if you didn't have those other situations. And I'm excited to get that call and just hear from you.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. This was everything happened the way it needed to.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does. I have enough trust in that now. Like, I was mad at 15 that the girl band didn't have success. And now I'm like, oh my God, thank God. Yeah. Because that wouldn't have lasted.
I mean, I look at Noah, and I think if I was his age at the time, I would have been so jealous of the life he got to live. And I have a friend, Kira, who's in a very similar boat. And the one thing I realized from working with her is the more people watching are the more people you can fall in front of. And if you're afraid to fall in front of the 5 people in Hotel Cafe, it's going to be a lot scarier when you're falling in front of 50,000 at a stadium. So sometimes it's nice to not have people watching on your way up, because then when you do get to the point where they're watching, you get to be as proud of yourself as they are of you.
You get to exhibit your greatness because you earned it.
Fucking earned it.
Yeah.
This was so great. I'm so happy we got to do this.
I'm so happy we got to do this. Thank you for having me.
Please tell everybody where they can find you, what they should expect.
They can find me, am I in frame? I'm not in frame. Hi. You can find me on all the social platforms.
Under Annika Rose.
Annika Rose Music, Annika. What else? Okay, I guess I will say that I am also going to start a podcast at some point. I don't know when it's going to come out, but it's going to be called In My Room. And Bradley, you must come.
I would love it. And once that's out, we'll link it in this video too. Okay. So you'll if you go down below, you'll find her music, you'll find all of her socials. And once that podcast is out, you'll find it down there as well. And maybe by then we just do another to tell people about it as well.
Yeah, of course.
Done. Done. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you watching and hanging out with us as always. I know it was quite a path for me to get back to sitting in these seats and sitting with people that mean so much to me, but I'm here. We did it. And I'm really excited to show you guys what we're doing next. And I can't wait for you to hear all of the new amazing things that she's coming out with. I promise you're going to love it. I know I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
And to everybody listening.
I'm Annika Rose, and this is an experiment.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Love you guys. Bye.
The experience is the experiment.